Turn that off. It's time for No Pad Sports Talk. Stay tuned as two brothers bring you the latest from your Michigan teams and beyond in hockey, baseball, football, and more. Let's get started. Here are your hosts, JD and Steve.
Welcome to another edition of No Pad Sports Talk. I am one of your hosts, JD.
And I'm Steve, and, well, this is round two.
Round two.
Of our pregame. Unfortunately, the first episode we did a couple of days ago did not, my audio didn't come through as the way it was supposed to. And so we're going to try and redo it, make it a little better for everybody.
Yeah, it was, we recorded that on a Friday. We uploaded it. And after going back and listening to it, I don't know. It just, audio wasn't up to what we expect. So we just kind of want to do the show over again. So if you listen to it, it's basically the same thing, but with better audio. So.
Well. All right. So pregame. But before we get started with our pregame,
right,
there's one thing we need to talk about, and that's the World Series.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
On Friday, that was just starting, I believe, right?
Yep.
No. Yes. That was game one was Friday night, right?
Right.
And then game two was last night. So game one went into extra innings, where the Rangers pulled that out in extra innings with a walk-off.
Yep.
And then yesterday, Diamondbacks came back and said, you know what? We didn't like that very much, so we're going to put it to you. And they went out and won that game 9-1.
Yeah, completely dominated. Merrill Kelly had an awesome pitching performance.
Yep.
7 innings, 9 strikeouts. That might have been his best for the entire season, and it couldn't have came at a better time, honestly.
Absolutely. And now they're heading back to Arizona with game 3 being tomorrow night, I believe.
That's correct.
So I think they might be playing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because they're all 3 games in Arizona. Yep. So Arizona has a chance to win the World Series at home if they can sweep the next 3 games.
Right. Yep.
And
the other thing we're kind of talking about was we kind of made our predictions as far as who we think is going to win the World Series and who our MVPs will be.
That's what we did. I let JD go first last time, so he actually took the Rangers.
Yep.
And I told him I was...
Yep,
and Corey Seager, yep. And I took the opposite, just so it could be different. So I took the Diamondbacks. I said they'd win in 6.
And I said 7.
You did say they'd be 7 games. And I said the MVP was going to be the Diamondbacks catcher, and it's not looking too good for him. And I did that just out of, my brother's a catcher. So I was like,
I mean, look, he had a home run last game, and there was a solo shot. He went 1 for 4, and he also had a walk. But the solo shot opened the floodgates for Arizona. And so that was...
Yeah. But after game one, after game one, it wasn't looking good. So after yesterday, that helps. But, when you have when your pitcher goes 7 innings the way he did and has the game that he had, there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, I mean, Marino did go 0 for 5 in game 1, but hey, again, it's the series MVP, not just a game MVP, so he has a chance still.
That's right.
Next
yep,
to know.
Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, that was kind of our prediction. So, quick recap. Let us know what you think. If we, if you agree with our predictions, disagree with our predictions. Either way, I'm excited about the World Series. It's not the typical teams. So,
nope.
I also did say I'm actually rooting for Arizona. I do want Arizona to win. I think that'd be fun. They got such a good young team, lots of talent on there. And you can make the case that Texas kind of were trying to buy their World Series. Signing Corey Seager and Marcus Semien to huge contracts, like what, $500 million or $600 million, whatever it was combined.
Yeah, for 2 players.
Yeah, but at either way, I mean, in the end, I don't really care. Like it's not a big deal to me, but I do hope Arizona wins it.
Well, I think it's nice because you got a 5 and a 6 seed in the series, right? So it was not the teams that were anyone expected to be there, and that's why there was all this talk about it not being a great World Series because of the teams that were there and where they were ranked. But I think if you look at their overall picture, the whole season, where they started and where they're at, like to see that progression, I think you're actually would be very happy with the teams that you see. You should be happy with the play. It's been really good. I mean, extra innings in game 1, not just like an extra, like it went the 11th inning, right? And the Rangers was the bottom of the 11th before they pulled that out, right? So, I think you got to be happy with that. I like seeing that parity and seeing some other teams. You talked about how the Rangers might look like they're buying their way into the World Series. Well, they're not the only team that's ever done that. If you look at the Yankees, you look at the Red Sox,
Dodgers,
teams do it all the time. Yeah.
Even the Tigers want to be real about it. Like, if you look at the team they got the World Series with, not back in the 80s, but most recently in the 2000s.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say the same thing.
Yep. So, but that's kind of where we're at with the World Series. We're going to keep an eye on that, and we'll be mentioning that as we progress, as it finishes up. Because, in all honesty, this time next week, the series could be over. Even if it goes 7 games. All right? So, they'll do the 3 games in Arizona, take a day for travel, and I would assume games 6 and 7 back in Texas would be over Friday, Saturday night.
Saturday, November 4th would be Game 7 if it went that far.
Game 7. There you go. So if it makes it that far by next week, by Sunday next week, we're gonna have a new World Series champ. And in all honesty, if it works out in my favor, we could have a World Series champ before we do our pregame for the Lions game for next week.
That's right.
Oh no, but they're gonna act no pregame because they're gonna have a bye.
Bye week. Yeah.
It's a bye, but we'll still do a pregame.
Yeah. And so speaking about the Lions, though, of course, like we said, right now it's Sunday, but we did talk about them on Friday, but we were kind of redoing it. So, but we did get some confirmation as far as who is not going to play for the Lions.
Yep.
So like Jonah Jackson and Montgomery are out. That's kind of expected. So
correct.
I do believe Brian Branch is scheduled to play. So barring any sort of setbacks between now and then, we should get him back, and that's going to be a much needed boost.
Yeah. Frank Ragnow is the one that I'm worried about the most. Our center. Yeah. He is actually doubtful. So I gotta think that he's going to be a game time decision. And Brian Branch is not even currently listed on here, or at least on the Lions website, as far as their injury report for Week 8.
I'm really hoping that Ragnow is obviously able to go, but again, because the bye is the very next week, that gives him 2 weeks off to kind of heal. So if he's able to go this game, then get the 2 weeks, I'm hoping that's going to be enough for him.
Yeah. Who do we have that comes in and plays center? Is it
It would be Graham Glasgow, I think.
Graham Glasgow, right?
Yeah.
That's why that's what he played when he was at Michigan. He played a little guard, he played center. He's kind of played a little bit everywhere. So I assume that's going to be the guy that's going to come in and play center, and I'm okay with that. That's he's capable of that position. So whether Ragnow can't go and we give him the extra week of rest, right? Mm-hmm. And then he's got 2 full weeks of rest, and then he can kind of slowly start working his way back after the bye. So I'd be okay with that. it is nice to see Brian Branch's name not on the list.
Yep.
Jerry Jacobs was a full participant all week. His game time status says unspecified, so he may dress, but they may or may not use him. Kind of like the Brian Branch thing last week, right? Where
right.
He was. It sounded like he was going to be available, but he didn't play. So he could be like the an emergency role kind of thing if it comes down to it.
Right. Yeah. But Jonah Jackson being out, that is painful.
It is, especially now if you're going to lose both Ragnow and Jackson for the game, and Vaitai is questionable, so I assume he's going to play. But that's the dead center of our line. Right? Both guards and your center. So it's gonna it could be tough. It'll be tough. So if we look at our depth chart, right, when you're looking there, you got Glasgow at center. Glasgow right now is the starting right guard, but if Ragnow doesn't go, he's gonna play center. Vaitai's his backup. And then I can't pronounce his name. Awasika. Coyote. I'm guessing that's if I pronounced it right, but we're only really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I mean, we've got 9 offensive linemen, but that versatility is not. So we could be a little thin on the offensive line as somebody else goes down.
Yep, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, but with that all being said, there's our injury report. When you look at the Lions or not Lions, but on the Raiders side, Devontae Adams, he was a full participant in practice, but he does have a shoulder injury that he's working on. The cornerback Bennett, the only one that they show is out is their linebacker Diablo.
Divine.
Yeah. So, and then they got two linebackers. I guess they're inside linebacker.
Well, Bolton's questionable, right?
No, this one says they're out.
You're looking at a different one than me then. So the one.
I'm on the Lions webpage. So looking at their injury report, and it just says these are the ones that they say are out. So Mauga, Garoppolo's gonna play. He does have a back issue, but Marcus Peters was limited in practice. Nate Hobbs is questionable. So like their back end's kind of like our back end. We're kind of limping into this game, and we talked about how the Lions need to come out swinging, right? They got, everybody knows they got kicked in the teeth last week against Baltimore, and they made us look like an inferior team.
Yeah.
And so they've got to come out and show us that they put that game behind us and that they are stepping in and ready to go. I know that was a big part of what we talked about, was just how was the team going to bounce back? Right?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're going to have to, as obviously as Lions fans, we want to see, we don't want to see SOL. That's not what we want to see. And
that's right.
So are they going to come out and they're just going to be fast, be strong, and just dominate and the trenches like they did previously to the loss against Baltimore? And
right.
that is something that I know when we talked about it, that I believe that they will. I think that ultimately they learned from a lot of the mistakes they made defensively against the Ravens. I think even during the press conference, even Campbell said that mistakes were made and they were giving them way too much yardage underneath, playing too far off the ball. A lot of that stuff's going to change. Plus, it's just a quarterback change. Going into the Ravens, we did make a comment that we might pressure Lamar Jackson, but as far as being able to sack him, it was going to be difficult because of how he can move in the pocket. And that's exactly what we've seen. The times he did apply pressure, he was able to escape and make something happen. So but the Raiders don't have a Lamar Jackson. They're going to have a statue-esque Garoppolo, and that's going to play right into the Lions' strength. So,
correct.
I think the defensive line is going to be hungry because the defensive line did pretty much nothing against Lamar Jackson, and they're going to get after Garoppolo.
Yes. So, as far as our defense, if we can get that pressure on Garoppolo, keep Josh Jacobs under wraps, we got to stop Devontae Adams, right? He's their guy, right?
Oh, sure.
So, if you can slow him down, I think, or even just frustrate him to the point where he kind of gets himself out of a game, right? Just you gotta have to double team. You have to play someone over top, right? But we got to move our cornerbacks in closer, so they're not getting those quick 5-yard slants. It was those short passes and that were killing us against Baltimore. So if we can slow that down and keep that from happening, because that's Garoppolo's game. He's a short intermediate guy, right? So if you can keep him under pressure, make tight throws, I think this game is going to be easily handled by our defense. As far as our offense goes, I need to see Jared Goff get and Jamo get more in sync. Right? There's got to be a way to generate getting him the ball, even if it's not just stretching the field, trying to take the top off the defense, right? Quick slants, quick hitters, just comebacks, just anything, even if it's a receiver screen, right? Trying to get the ball into the hands of a player who's not only got speed, but, he's shifty.
That's what I've been wondering about overall as far as Jamo goes. Yeah, they run Jamo deep a lot. But, look, watching a lot of games, today since Lions weren't playing.
Yep.
I've seen that all the time. I've seen a bunch of slants, and not even just now, but even, watching some old Alabama games. Like when Jamo, yeah, sure, he can beat people deep because the guy is just fast. Yeah. But the little slant plays and stuff like that, I'm telling you, I think that's where we're kind of missing on Jamo. Is I do believe once he gets kind of behind the linebackers and be able to split the safeties, especially when they're playing a 2-deep safety set, that's where we're missing. And I'd love to see them scheme some more for Jamo, kind of running him a little bit more inside on a slant. I totally agree with you on that.
Yep, and I know the chemistry's not there yet, right? Jamo hasn't had a lot of reps with the first team. But there's going to be a point where I can't say that anymore, right?
Of course, yes.
So This is his third game back, I think. This is week 8. He missed the first 4 games.
So it'll be his fourth game.
Fourth game back.
Yeah.
So
I mean, granted, he didn't play much like the first couple, but
correct. So they're trying to ease him back in, but we need him, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown is still getting his, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sam Laporta is still getting his targets, right? Jahmyr Gibbs got targets, last week because he was the lead guy, right? So not only he had over 100 yards from scrimmage between, I think it was 100 yards, over 100 yards from scrimmage, rushing and receiving.
Jamo was also targeted 6 times and didn't catch anything, but as we talked about before, not every pass was a great pass.
Correct.
And he did get hit right in the face mask with that one, and that the optics looked bad on that one because that just, let's face it, that looked silly and looked really bad.
Well, it looked like the receiver from the movie Unnecessary Roughness.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or Necessary Roughness. And, the only way he was able to catch that, he just drilled it right between his face mask. Well, if Jared Goff had the arm strength to do that, that's probably what he would have done.
Yeah. But, he did have his arm held down, too, on that play. But, again, for me, what made it look so bad is he didn't even move his other arm. Like, his right arm was held down, but his left arm was, didn't even come up to try to even, I don't know. That's what made it look bad for me. It's almost as if he didn't even see it, because he didn't react to it.
Right. So, but if you can get, like, where St. Brown and Laporta are playing well, Gibbs is starting to play a little better. I think they need to get it, if they're not going to run him in the middle, we talked about getting him out there in the screen game and using him that way, right? And you get those 3, and if you can get Jamo into that mix and have that all 4 of those players hitting on all cylinders, I mean, you're going to stress the defense, right? Because then you still got Josh Reynolds. You got Khalif Raymond that comes in, right? You're going to see him coming in and out of they make plays for him so they, because of his speed and his shiftiness, right? All I'm saying is that defenses are going to have a hard time scheming for the Lions offense because they're not going to know who to stop. Because if you take one, we've got 3 others, plus 2 in reserve, right? And when Montgomery comes back, I mean, we have a very potent offense that we can score,
and
it's gotta gel a little bit more.
I'd like to see him have a little bit more spread. The go without a fullback. If you want Laporta in there, that's fine. Like, again, you can run it both ways. I love Laporta. I'm not saying take him out. I'm not saying don't use a tight end. Use a tight end. But sometimes I wouldn't mind seeing a 4 wide receiver spread with a single back there. No tight end. Let your offensive line, because then they have to go into more of a dime package. So your offensive line is going to be able to handle the 4 down lineman and the linebacker.
Linebacker,
right?
Yep.
So it's like, and especially when you got Montgomery who runs so hard, like he'll be able to possibly even get an extra 2 yards if he just runs somebody over. Like they still make the tackle, but he falls forward. There's 2 extra yards on the run, and more of a by spreading out the defense. I'd like to see a lot of like that more. And as far as Jamo goes, I would love to see more plays designed for him. They've done it in the past. It hasn't worked out, but some quick screens and stuff like that, just to try to get the ball in his hands and see if his shiftiness and speed, make something happen. I'm all for that. I got no problem with them doing that. Because you got to get the ball in his hands because he's a threat taker to the house at all times. So get him the ball. But I would still like to see a couple slants designed for him. And as far as Jahmyr Gibbs goes, keep doing what you're doing. He's adapting to the NFL. And every game he's gotten better. So just
That's true.
keep feeding Jahmyr Gibbs. Let him get more of a feel for it, and before you know it, the dude just you know is going to be exactly what we expected.
Right. You know, he might not be the 100-yard rusher, right? But
Right.
if he's going to get you 60, 70 yards rushing and another 60, 70 yards receiving, I mean, that's Christian McCaffrey all day,
Well, he's
right?
and he's a great back to use in terms of like, you know, screen passes and stuff too, which you know, we talked about a lot of times when your actual run game ain't working, you know, you kind of resort to the screen game to kind of, you know, try to mimic a run game in a way.
Correct.
And Jahmyr Gibbs on the outside, ball in his hands, I love that.
Yeah. So that's what you and I have seen out of our Lions through 7 games, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And these are some of the things that you got to believe that the coaching staff has seen this, right? Other teams that are watching our games are seeing, you know, what they're doing and how our players are being used. So, you know, you obviously don't want to show your hand, you know, before the river card if you're playing, you know, right? But in the end, you just gotta implement it, and then you gotta modify it. But you want to be able to run things out of the same formation, so everything looks the same.
Right.
Right.
That's what they've done so well in the past. Is
Correct.
it fools the defense because of that reason.
Yeah. Right. I mean, if you come out there and it's the same, like, okay, this is what they're gonna run. No, this is what we're running, right? Because you can run multiple things out of the same formation, and they just need to keep doing that. They got to get back to that. They need to allow Jared Goff to not have to throw 45, 50 times,
Yes.
right? Jared Goff is the guy, he's best when he's throwing 28 to 35 times a game. To me, that's Jared Goff's sweet spot,
It is.
which means that we're running the ball another 22 to 25 times to keep our offense balanced, right? And while it's still a little receiver heavy, that's because we're using the screen game, right?
Yeah.
So to us, we still see it as a run because that's the way it's generating that type of offense, right? But yeah, that's what we need to see from our team. You got to come out hard. You know, I do remember asking you. It's Monday night. Our team, it's the coin flip. I asked you what was your choice? Do you defer if you win, or do you want to take it and get your offense out there and score for the hometown team to kick this game off?
Personally, what I want is for the Lions to kick off and let their defense set the tone. That's just me. Like, you know, I think the defense is going to be hungry and they're going to be anxious to get out there on the field because they just want to start hitting and again show that the Baltimore Ravens game was a fluke. So let them set that tone. Let them get out there and just hit somebody. And plus, you always got the advantage that if you score at the end of the half, you get the ball right back anyways. You know,
Right.
so that gives you that advantage. But regardless of that, I just want our defense. And plus, it shows confidence in your defense too. Hey, I'm gonna put you guys in the field, get the stop, get our offense on the field. We still have confidence in you, even though you got toasted by Lamar Jackson and company.
Right. Okay. And while I understand that concept and I do like the idea of the opportunity of maybe scoring as the half ends and then getting the ball and scoring again, right, and doubling that up, and really putting it to them in that respect. I think, for me, I think I'd rather see the offense come out. I think that's just, I don't know. as I'm thinking about it, I'd rather take the ball to start, and then, as your defense is now absorbing and watching what's happening out on the field, I feel like sometimes that kind of energizes them, right? Especially if you go down there and you methodically march down the field, and then you score 7 points, and they're coming out and they're like, okay, now we've got this, right?
Yeah.
And I think some of that might take some of the pressure off the defense, because now they're out there playing with a lead. Vice, trying to set the tone, I guess.
So, another thing we kind of talked about is, and we're even getting closer to it now than we did when we were we originally did the show on Friday, is a trade deadline.
Yep.
Right. So, trade deadline is going to be on Tuesday, so it's going to be after, of course, the Monday night game.
Yep.
So when we're looking at the Lions' need, there, of course, everybody's looking at the defense. Offense looks good. We need to have some sort of defense. Now, obviously, there's a lot of, just like with the draft, there's a lot of misdirection. There's a lot of falsehoods being told. So it's really hard to say, this is what they're going to do. I think they're going to do this. Well, this team said this, or it's not going to happen, or whatever, right? So, right. And one thing that we looked at in the past is what other so-called experts think the Lions should do, and for the most part, these experts think the Lions should trade for some sort of edge rusher. Mm-hmm. The names that get thrown around a lot are names like Max Crosby, Brian Burns, Danielle Hunter,
yep.
Chase Young, and Montez Sweat. So those are the names that are hot right now as far as what could happen. Mm-hmm. Now, I've kind of came down a little bit in my thought of what I feel the Lions should do, because I think on Friday, I was all for giving up some draft capital and getting a player like Burns or Crosby or etc. Now a lot of these teams have come and said, no, we're not going to trade, just as an FYI, but again, you can't really trust what teams are saying.
No. Especially if they're just trying to get more for what they're for the player they have.
Right. So out of all the players that were named, if you could have one, and let's just say draft capital, whatever, let's just forget all that, what the cost would be. Like, who would be your dream defensive end out of the players just named?
I think it'd be Max Crosby, of all the ones that you mentioned, right?
Okay.
Chase Young, he's been hurt. Hasn't been out there, right? Montez Sweat, I think, would be a good fit. His personality, his work ethic, he gets out there and he gets after. He's got a high motor, right? Brian Burns would be my backup. And those two specifically because of their age over Danielle Hunter, even though Danielle Hunter is having a fantastic season.
Yes.
Right? And speaking of Danielle Hunter, you're looking at, because this is Sunday, Kirk Cousins just went down with a possible Achilles, and if it is and it's confirmed, I mean, obviously he's done for the year, right?
That's correct, yeah.
And if that happens, what does that team look like? And Danielle Hunter could come at you, maybe a little cheaper now because one, he is a couple of years older. He's 28. He's not over 30, right? He's having a great year. He's been very consistent since he's come into the league. So you might be able to get him a little cheaper because now Minnesota's looking at just collecting picks. So they're trying to do and just go into a full rebuild.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a possibility, right? I think teams might take a flyer out on Chase Young, just because he is young. He's staying healthy so far this season. He's looking pretty good. He's not, I don't know that he's back at 100% like his rookie season. But in that order, for me, it'd be Max Crosby, Brian Burns, Danielle Hunter, Montez Sweat, and then Young.
Okay. So, again, reports came out that none of those guys are available. But again, you can't really trust reports. So, anyways, just to let anybody listening know that that is what they said, but we'll just have to see. So, the problem that I have, I think, with giving up any major draft capital, like, I'm okay giving up one first-round pick for one of the younger guys if we can sign them to a long-term deal. That would be the only caveat to that. Because, again, if you draft somebody, you know, like a Brian Burns or Max Crosby, etc., in the first round next year, you're going to be happy with that first round pick.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind giving up one first round pick because that's like you did draft Max Crosby or you did draft Brian Burns. So
sure.
I'm okay with that. But anything beyond that, I'm a little hesitant with as far as giving up draft capital because not only do the Lions right now have a good track record as far as with draft picks, so you know you kind of want to, you know, keep what you got, but they're just like when you look on paper and what you see, you know, are they as good as, you know, the Eagles, the Cowboys? You know, let's just call them the elite teams in the NFL. Are they as good as the elite teams? And
yeah,
as you know, the Lions it just seems like they're just lacking in some talent here and there. Not a lot. Like I think they're just right on. That's right on some of the team's heels. I don't think they're missing by much. And obviously, the injuries did hurt the Lions this year, and that secondary could look a lot different if all those guys didn't get injured back there, but they did.
Right.
So, I again, we just, you know, we don't really know, but I just think one more year of draft picks, and then maybe, you know, trading for players that you think could help your team, unless it's a elite player like we're talking about, and you just give up one first rounder. Obviously, I always hope it's less than that, but you just never really know. So. Anyways, that was my thought process.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said last time too. Is I'm always weary. We've done because, like you said, we have done really well in the draft. And I'm afraid to give up something that we may, you know, to build for our future, right? So I just feel like we need to, while it'd be great to have somebody that kind of an elite edge rusher, right, on the opposite side of Aiden Hutchinson would be fantastic. But if you look at where we hurt the most currently on our roster, and we talked a little bit about this, I think offline, was we're thin at the O-line right now, right?
Yeah, sure.
You know, both our guards and our center could be out this week, right? So that's going to be tough. You know, while Graham Glasgow is going to come in and fill one position, that still leaves the guards that, you know, we got to figure out what we're going to do, right? Yeah. And we're also, I think, thin at the cornerback position just because of injuries, right? So, to me, for this year, if you're looking to let's talk about making a playoff push, that is where our focus should be, and not so much on our front seven. Because I think we're pretty good there. We've shown that we can get pressure. You know, the linebackers are starting to play better. That cornerback and O-line, right? And, you know, if we could pick up a tackle, somebody that might be able to play guard, but certainly, right? Because we saw Penei Sewell try to go play left tackle, and it didn't work out very well. You know? So I'd like to see a left tackle or, a guard tackle, a versatile player who can play across the line, and then a cornerback, right? And even if that means looking at who's a free agent and is not playing, who's not currently on a team, or somebody sitting on somebody's practice squad. But I think for making a push as we're moving to the end of the season, we're midway through now, right? This halfway, right? It's hard to believe, but it's already halfway through the season. Right. So, but to me, that's where the focus should be. And if we could pick somebody up that can do work either side of that, and help us out down the stretch, that's going to make us the player. I think that's what's going to help us. That's what's going to help us win that first playoff game. That's what's going to help us get into that next level.
So, we didn't talk about this on Friday, but I kind of want to bring it up now. And that's Jack Campbell.
Yep.
So, look, one of the things that was sold to us is his ability to cover.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he wasn't... I did not hate the pick. So, I just want to be clear for everybody listening. I didn't hate the pick of Jack Campbell.
No.
He was not my first choice of linebacker. And my reasoning behind that was I thought there's other linebackers out there that would have been a little bit better when it came to coverage. Okay? That's it. That's full stop. That's all I meant. Is I was looking for more of a coverage linebacker because it always seems like the Lions are getting really, really messed up when it comes to being able to cover the tight end, the linebacker, that kind of thing. So,
right.
Now, his overall coverage grade from PFF.com, and I'm a big fan of PFF, it's a 39.4 for his grade. Now, that is a very, very, very poor grade. I mean, it's one of the worst grades a linebacker can get, honestly. So, he's definitely struggling in coverage. His pass rushing grade's only a 46.5. And his overall grade's a 44.3. He is struggling tremendously right now, and as a linebacker. Now his run defensive grade is up to 67.3. So that's his best grade that he's got. So he's been pretty solid when it comes to run defense. Yeah. But anything in the pass, he's been getting smoked. So, now. He's a rookie. He's only got 7 games played. So, mm-hmm. Brother, when is it time to start thinking if we're looking at potential trade targets, and if you think you're capable of making a deep playoff run? I know we've been talking a lot about defensive ends. I know there's even a lot of talk about certain cornerbacks, but should linebacker also be looked at?
Well, I don't know that we're completely set at any one level, right? I think if there was a player out there that was available that we could bring in to do that, right?
Well, even if it's just for me to look, is what I'm saying. Like, are you concerned about Jack Campbell enough that they should look for a starting linebacker if one's available?
Well, the numbers are not good. To me, his length, his size, his speed. I'm not sure if the defense, the coverages, right, the scheme. Maybe they just don't have him in the right position. You know what I mean? I don't know. Is it NFL defense is more complicated than they are at the college level? It's possible, right? But everybody at this level is elite, right? So it's about confidence, and I think just having one good thing happen and starting to build on that. So I'm not super concerned. But obviously I'm not against bringing in another player. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not.
So his right now, just so you know, he's played in 119 coverage snaps so far this year, and out of the 119 coverage snaps he's played in, his passer rating allowed is 141.
Okay.
So obviously that's a lot, and his reception percentage. Like when you talk about in Game 1 versus Kansas City, he only allowed a 33% completion percentage in
Right.
Kansas City. Seattle, it was 100%. Atlanta, 100%. Tampa Bay, 100%. Baltimore, 100%. So, and then you look at the other two games when it wasn't 100%. Green Bay, 75, and Carolina, 66. And that's just because there was one pass that wasn't caught. So, he's given up a total of 197 yards. Yards per reception is a 12.3 for yards per reception. A first down every time someone that he's covering catches the ball. So, anyways, overall his reception percentage is 80%. So,
Okay.
just want to throw that out there.
To me, I'd have to go back out and I'd have to look at those plays individually and see what happened. Did he get crossed up? Right? Was it? Did they have a rub route where he got behind the guy because of it? Any of those things can happen when you're playing in that linebacker position, right? When you have two crossers coming across, and that happens, right? It's that natural pick play that everyone talks about. So, while those aren't great numbers, I'd have to see the plays individually again, I think, to analyze that information.
Sure. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I'm not worried about him. I think he'll grow and get better. I think he has a lot of talent, just like Jamo.
Yeah.
So for both guys, I'm willing to wait a little bit longer before making any sort of determination. But all I can say is what we have seen. And to be fair, what we've seen has not been that good. So that's all.
Yep, that's all right. So let's do our predictions.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna let you go this time. Final score.
I think it's gonna be more like a 31-13. I just think that overall Lions are gonna come out and they're gonna be hungry and they're gonna be just PO'd and they're going to put it to them. So that's what I say.
Yep.
And just like I said at the beginning, I think that not having a mobile quarterback is going to play into the Lions' defensive hands. So
Okay, so I'm gonna go with 34-20. Lions, and I think defense scores a touchdown this week.
Definitely possible. My defensive player of the game that I picked, I think is going to be Aleem McNeil. I just think that he's going to get after it in both the run game and the pass game.
Yep.
I just think for some reason I'm just feeling it. I think Aleem McNeil is going to have a big game.
I'm trying to think of who I picked.
You picked Aiden Hutchinson.
I did pick Aiden Hutchinson. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to bounce back and he'll have 2 sacks.
Offensively, I'm going Jahmyr Gibbs. He's gotten better every single week for the last 3 weeks, and I think this week he'll get better again. And the Raiders' defense is not as good as Baltimore's. We'll have to see how the offensive line is, who's actually playing based on injuries, for us. But
Right.
I think Jahmyr Gibbs is due for a pretty decent game, and so I'll pick him. And again, for those out there, we don't pick quarterbacks because it's too easy. So no quarterbacks are allowed to be picked for players. That
No quarterbacks. So I'm going with Josh Reynolds this week. I know that's probably not who I picked last game or our last show.
You
I don't
picked
know who it was.
Amon-Ra first down.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's kind of an easy pick, so I went with Josh Reynolds because he has been Mr. Clutch.
Yes.
Right? And having that chemistry that he's got coming from the Rams when he played with Jared Goff there, I think Jared Goff has a lot of faith, a lot of trust in him, and he's going to be able to pick up, he'll have 5 receptions and 4 of them will be for first down.
Yeah, that's about right. And Amon-Ra, St. Brown, like I said, that's kind of an easy pick. Like, the guy just can't be covered right now. The guy is uncoverable. Yeah. He's going to get 10 catches over 100
10
yards.
10 catches and over 100 yards, exactly. He'll probably have 125, 130 yards this week for 10 or 11 catches. So he's just clicking away. I mean, he's not Tyreek Hill who 8 games in and already has over 1,000 yards receiving. I mean, but and my hat's off to it because that's freaking phenomenal. I mean, the guy's on pace, 2,000 yards. Which I don't think we've ever had a 2,000-yard receiver.
What was Kelvin Johnson? What's his max? Was it 18 or 1900?
Yeah, 18 or 1900.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm just looking it up. Receiving yard leader. Oh, that's looking for the regular season. I want it all time.
Yep. Calvin Johnson got closest in 2012.
All right. So yeah, but see, what I would like the Lions to do, the NFL is
wait a minute.
Is a copycat league.
Yeah. First receiver in NFL history, 2,000 receiving yards. No, it looks like Cooper Kupp did it in 2022.
Oh, with Stafford. Yeah.
Yep.
That's right. But the NFL is a copycat league. Look, I think Jameson Williams is as fast as Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
So I'd like for Lions to try to use Jamo in the same way that Tyreek Hill's being used.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's all. Copycat league. Figure out what they're doing for Tyreek Hill and do the same thing for Jamo. So.
Yep. So.
But yeah, we're getting close to an hour here. We're trying to keep it less than that, but
yep.
At any rate, let us know what you guys think about the predictions. Who would you predict?
Absolutely, and hopefully this audio turns out better, and we'll figure out. So they're playing tomorrow. I know you said you're flying out Wednesday or something.
Yeah.
So we will try and do Tuesday as our post game so we can get that done.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right.
So, for everybody out there, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Find us social media. Tell us what you think. But we appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right. Go Lions.
Thanks for listening to No Pads Sports Talk. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you're at it, help spread the word by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on social media at No Pads Sports Talk.